Hi guys, welcome to the 2x e-commerce podcast show. This is a podcast dedicated to rapid growth in online retail. So if you're looking to grow traffic, sales, conversions, you're listening in and tuned into the right show. I'm just going to get closer to the microphone so we get a really good recording. On today's episode, I have with me Rowan Sheath. He is the CEO of Direct Heroes. Now, I'll tell you why I've been looking forward to speaking with Rohan. As you know, over the last 5 years or so, 3 to 5 years, there has been an explosion and then a decline in messenger bots, particularly on the Facebook platform.
Yeah.
And and at the same time, Facebook has been pushing WhatsApp and Instagram messaging as a new frontier, a new channel for marketers to utilize. And so I was researching, going through, what are the leading technologies, tech platforms for these messaging platforms. And I came across Direct Heroes. Now, what Direct Heroes do is they pretty much manage Instagram messaging or DMs at scale.
Correct.
So if you are an e-commerce, business, direct to consumer business, and you have a significant amount of followership or conversions from Instagram, you should listen to this episode essentially. I'm not going to say too much because Rowan is going to really explain what you need to know about Instagram marketing today, DM marketing today. And I'm just going to hand over the mic to Rohan and let him introduce himself. Welcome, Rohan. It's an absolute pleasure for you coming on the 2x e-commerce podcast show.
Thanks for having me. Obviously, Direct Heroes has been a company that I've been working on with my business partner, Jeff, for a few years now.
Before we kick off today's show, I'd like to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. Did you know that cloud-hosted e-commerce platforms like Shopify and BigCommerce do not provide automatic backups? Rewind steps in to protect Shopify and BigCommerce stores with automatic backups. Rewind is trusted by over 25,000 stores. Install Rewind and get to test it for free over 7 days. And to extend the 7-day trial to 30 days, head over to rewind.io, their website, and mention 2x e-commerce.
He's actually the CEO. I'm the CMO and co-founder, so we're co-founding the company together. I let him manage it because I'm the CEO of this company, which is GrowRev behind me. So I can't be running two companies at the same time. But when it comes to direct message marketing, a few years ago, when we came up with the idea of Direct Heroes, it was, it's gone through a few iterations of what the company is today. It came from the fact when ManyChat and all the big companies that are on the Facebook side that we're all familiar with came out and, we're getting big. And we started to search. I was kind of growing following at the time, for my agency specifically, because I was closing some decent deals. This is before people knew even how to monetize Instagram. And Jeff was like, well, doing it on the Instagram side, why don't we create one? And I go, well, let's test it out. And kind of just, we have an idea. Let's get a development team, and went to Upwork. And the next thing you know, we've got a developer, and, getting him to test out what we can and can't do on Instagram. Fast forward to a year later, after kind of building what was the very first version of it, it looked like MS-DOS for anybody that would even know what MS-DOS looks like in our generation, because it's just code that kind of worked and just automated the DMs a little bit, put in a keyboard and just went back and forth and testing it. We knew we were onto something. And we kind of kept an eye to see, just to make sure that, big guys weren't going to go into that space. And for some reason, I think just because everybody was so in, and from a direct response marketing standpoint, everybody was so focused in 2017, 2018, and 2019 on messenger bots on Facebook, that I think Instagram kind of just took a back seat, which kind of gave us the opportunity to make it our front seat. And we doubled down extremely hard into late 2018 and into 2019, and built what we have today as a company, Direct Heroes, which is the very first direct messaging marketing and CRM solution for Instagram.
And you're at 30 million in revenue a year.
No, it's the agency. We manage 30 million a month in a year in ad spend.
Okay. Got it. Okay, so let's start out with, what's the landscape like now in Messenger? So I was, interestingly, this morning, I get out of bed and I fall into the stupid habit of picking up my phone and checking my Facebook. I'm a
Yeah.
member of the ManyChat group, and
Yeah.
somebody is like, "Why does ManyChat suck?" You know, as in
Yeah.
like, and then there's a massive thread of this like 100 comments, 80 to
Yeah.
100 comments of the features they've removed over time, how Facebook's, creating new rules, changing, just pretty much the mode of engagement on the platform. And people were just upset. It had to take somebody from their product department to come in to the chat and actually, ask all the guys who are complaining to send them an email so they could review, essentially.
Right.
So it looks like the peak of messenger marketing on on Facebook as a platform has plateaued and is actually hitting a decline, it appears. So what does that Instagram, you alluded to the fact that these are the starting, no one actually paid attention to Instagram, DM marketing. And now you guys are working on this platform, or you guys actually running this platform. There's a lot of proof on your site with lots of influencers and brands you've worked with. Where are we now with DM marketing on Instagram?
I think where we are with DM marketing on Instagram is honestly, it's going to be one of the things where people are going to have to start putting it into the forefront. And we're going to make a big push going as a company into Q4, being e-commerce being the biggest time into that. So our big goal was 2018, 2019 was to prove that we had something that could work before we took it to mass. And we were only working with big brands at an enterprise level till March of this year. And March of this year is when we opened it up to public, and anybody can go on the website and buy it, and kind of just so we can test it out, whether it's small e-commerce or large e-commerce or small information or large information. That's kind of what it is. Facebook made a big shift earlier this year as well during the pandemic that we're all sitting through. Is they put a lot of their resources into Facebook shops and Instagram shops, etc. And that's when we knew that, okay, this is something that from an e-commerce standpoint is going to be huge. One of the things that I do know for a fact is Instagram usage throughout the pandemic increased massively. And I'm sure if you guys saw that, because people were kind of bored and scrolling, and e-commerce sales actually increased through Instagram because of that specific correlation. That's when we were like, okay, now we got to start focusing towards building more of like, widgets and stuff that are going to be focused towards the e-commerce platform. I have a feeling because of what we are doing and the brands that we're working with, come Q4 of this year, you're going to start seeing a lot more purchases happening through the Instagram DMs. Because we're pushing it from the front lines and kind of, with the brands that we're working with, and people are going to start using it. And the amount of people that are coming through just the website from finding us, like you said, you were doing some searching for some cool and unique new tools. It's just at a point where, Facebook's kind of taken a backseat now, because you can't broadcast unless you pay, which a lot of people are getting into a situation where they don't like, because the costs are pretty high. And on the Instagram side, it's still pretty open from the broadcasting features. There's a lot of different things that we can take a look at. Some of the things that we can even chat about is even post-purchase behavior through Instagram that most people aren't paying attention to. When someone buys something, let's say you're buying it off Instagram, they get shipped to you, get it, the dopamine hit. And it's like, you instantly go back and say, okay, we can share something with you. If you share this on your story and tag the brand's page, we'll give you an additional, whatever, it's an entry for a giveaway or for an entry for an additional discount, whatever. They're already doing it, but now having them actually do it using a tool like what we've bought, and then building a list from it, which is massive.
Interesting. So what does engagement, if you have the stats, what does engagement on Instagram and time spent on Instagram look like in comparison to Facebook engagement and time spent on the Facebook app?
I don't have the exact stats, to be completely honest with you. But all I can tell you is just from what we've noticed, even running, like if we run side by side traffic on, like we run an agency, and it's like you do too, and I'm sure you've seen it as well. We're e-commerce and info. Our info clients convert way better off of Facebook, but on e-commerce clients, we've noticed, at least on a smaller scale, not the ones with the big brands, convert a lot better through Instagram. And now especially the fact that we can keep them natively inside of the Instagram platform with using direct heroes, where it's like you can run ads, like we mentioned earlier, where it's like you can run an ad that says DM me brand keyword for a discount to buy, or whatever the entry giveaway is. Now we're keeping them native. We're having that conversation with them inside of the DMs. And talk about engagement specifically. You know, a lot of people say Instagram organic engagement died, and it's died, and it's gotten worse over the years for sure. But the number one thing Instagram looks at, whether you have a large following or a small following, is how well are you communicating in the DMs with your end consumer. And that's their number one tracking, where it's like the more communication you have in the DMs, the better your engagement gets. So the more comments, likes, story views, etc., it just kind of correlates its way all the way up.
Interesting. Okay, so to make this of massive value to listeners, should talk about how a fairly sizable e-commerce brand, say with 50,000 followers on Instagram, can utilize Instagram DM marketing from start to finish. So we have 50,000. Yep. We sign up to Direct Heroes. How do we start to get a bang for our buck? How do we start to get a return on our investment? What are the first steps you would advise us to do?
So there's two things. The one thing that I like doing immediately from a brand, especially 50,000, is kind of that middle ground. And I like that you pick that number because it's not a big brand and it's a small brand. The number one thing is I would probably suggest doing a giveaway. And it's worked really well, especially during difficult times right now. Is where you say, hey, we're going to give away whatever product it is, if it's supplements or clothing or whatever. Make it tangible. Make it something where it's like people are like, okay, good.
To our followers on the feed and stories, or also run an ad with a giveaway.
You can do it all. I'll run the story, feed, and an ad. And then what you're going to do is you're going to say, hey, DM me keyword, the DM me brand's keyword. If it's a supplement company, DM me supplement, or whatever the name is. So now you're building that list. Number one. Number two, what you're going to end up doing from there is you're going to ask for an email, because you want them on your subscriber list, but you also want to have them push to an email just to be able to double opt in, and then incentivize.
Can I ask one question, please?
Yep.
Do people okay, given the fact I have 50,000 followers, is that different to a list? Do the 50,000 automatically translate to a list, or do they have to DM me directly in order to come onto my list?
That's a great question. They have to DM you directly to come onto your list. We can't just take your followership and turn it, because that is now technically outbound. You has to be internally marketed, so they have to opt in.
So technically, you could start with 0 followers or 100 followers, run an ad with the giveaway, and still ultimately build your IG DM list.
Correct. Okay, absolutely. Cool. And that's why, like, when we built this software for the end consumer, not for the brands and not for the developers. We did it from a perspective like, if we were to use it as consumers, how would we want it? And that's kind of what we did it. Whether you have 0 followers or you have 100 million followers, it doesn't matter. That's kind of the way we've thought about that. So kind of going back to that. So it's like, once they opt in, get an email. So obviously going back to the original days of building an email list, like that's something that I've always kind of had my back and kind of built my, bread and butter on. And then from there, getting them to share it to their story. So now you're building, so you're getting the virality. So there's 2 ways they can enter into the DMs. The best one to do is getting them to DM you a keyword, whatever keyword that is. And the second one is a story mention. So, and we'll talk about story mentions through post-purchase behavior. And what they end up doing is, I'm doing one right now on my account, and it's just getting them to take a last post, share it to their story, and tag the company. So then they're getting another additional entry. So now you're getting virality. So if you understand what just happened there, is you got your followers to now enter a list. It may not be in all 50,000, because we know reach is, quote unquote, shit in the bed right now. But overall, then what you're taking is the avid fans that have come into your list and now sharing it to their stories. So as soon as you're sharing it to their stories, you're getting free impressions, because let's say if they have 5,000 followers or they have 500 followers, their audience is going to see, oh, what's this giveaway I'm entered in? And it's automatically pushing back to your page, and then it's kind of creating that viral loop. So that's kind of what we usually suggest doing on the front end. It's worked phenomenally well for small brands. We did this with a 1,000 follower account, and we've done this with huge brands like Talentless. And as well on kind of, that's the entry point. And then once we get to the entry point, let's say you end up in a situation where you built the list and you can do the typical, do a broadcast at the end of the giveaway. Hey, so-and-so's won, but guess what? I want to give everybody a chance to win. Here's 50% off your first sale with us. Now you're also getting sales on the back end of that. So you're kind of, and then one thing that we're noticing on Instagram is our open rates are north of 90%. On the Instagram DMs. And the reason being is if you ever open your Instagram DMs, that annoying one little red bubble is always going to be there till you open that message. And that way, and because of their short, stubby communication things that we've put into play, people are reading them and people are engaging back and forth and asking simple questions, and then it kind of opens the door for other things.
Yeah, super interesting. And so what happens, next after, so how long would you run the competition? How do you start to link, how do you start to, when you get the list, when you build out the list, what kind of target do you set for yourself, and how do you start to get the juice, essentially make sales off the back of the list?
So usually what I usually suggest is doing exactly what I explained, is do the giveaway about 5 days, is what we've noticed works. Anything too long, you kind of, it dies out, buying behavior dies out, etc. And the immediate one to do it is as soon as you announce the winner, is make it so that everybody else that is entered gets something else, because so that they don't feel like, this brand just picked one person. The one thing I usually say is pick some tangible discount that people can go and buy your product right away.
Okay.
Right. So then it's forcing that influx of sales, and now you're forcing the next level is post-purchase behavior of what else you can do from there.
Okay. So let's go into Instagram DM. It seems very flat. It seems like, this is my perception, I might be totally wrong because I don't spend too much time on Instagram DMs.
All good.
It almost feels like it's plain text as compared to all the bells and whistles you get with the Facebook Messenger app.
Correct.
So am I wrong? And what if I'm wrong? What additional features does it have, both from a end user standpoint and from a back end of the marketer using a platform like Directorius?
It is flat from the perspective of it's very different. Instagram has not made it easy yet. And I say yet because I know they will, to send things like videos and images directly in the DM. So you just have to just make sure that your copy is really engaging, using emojis, kind of bringing that emotion out of the human through the DMs. If you really want to use videos that we've used in the past with some of our information-based clients, just push them off to YouTube or Vimeo. It works really, really well. Then you're kind of controlling the conversation somewhere else, but that's if you really, really want to. But our goal is to try and keep the conversation as short and as concise inside the DMs, and then bring them somewhere else that they're now in your world. It's like get that indoctrination to happen, where it's like you're having that one-to-one conversation feel in the DMs, and then push them off to become some, in part of your ecosystem somewhere else.
Okay, so I'm assuming that with an IG DM list, you should be able to broadcast.
Correct.
Okay, and what are the rules at the moment from Facebook in regards to broadcasting to your IG list?
So there really isn't any black and white rules, to be completely honest with you, with them. But what we've done as a company is whenever Facebook's made a change, we know Facebook and Instagram are sister companies. We've just made the exact same change. So even as soon as they rolled out the 24-in-1 rule, we rolled out the 24-in-1 rule. As soon as anytime there's an Instagram or Facebook Messenger change, we're pretty much adapting to those rules directly, just to make sure that people are, and we don't want to kind of confuse the end audience as well. If they're used to one, just, why fix something that's not broken? It's like, we just do the same thing, and it just makes communication with our clientele and our end consumers on the platform a lot easier.
Do you know what the open rates for broadcast messages to IG DMs are?
We just did one with Tony Robbins, and it was 98%.
98%. Okay. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. Okay. What about flows? What about can you set up flows based on behavior, on user behavior.
Oh yeah, so we can do it based on behavior. So it's like if someone comes in through one campaign, if they haven't finished that campaign, they can't enter another campaign. They have to, and then you can tag them based on if they're coming through if they're coming through an ad, if they're coming through a certain giveaway, if they're coming through a certain influencer. One of the things you can do is if they've purchased something from you and you want to do a broadcast only to a buyer's list, you can do that. For influencers, like let's say if you're working with a lot of influencers, you're a brand working with a lot of influencers and they're in your DM list. We can do behaviors where we segment based on messages that have only over 1,000 followers or only over 5,000 followers. So you can kind of segment. So it's like if you as a brand have influencers in your DMs and you want to run a DM, and if you want to run an influencer-based campaign, but you only want to work with influencers that are in your list over 5,000 followers to say, hey, I want to give you free product. You can go and segment based on just influencers that have 5,000 or more followers.
Okay.
There's a lot of behavior things that you can do on the back end. It just comes down to creativity. It's a very simple platform. It just comes down to creativity.
Okay, and the interesting thing for me is it's very similar to email because you don't have all those bells and whistles. You still not in 2020. You still cannot embed a video to your email.
Right.
So
an email list. Yeah.
Very similar if you use the same methodology. Do you connect to platforms, e-commerce platforms like Shopify and BigCommerce?
Yep, we can. Not directly not directly integrated. We're actually in the talks with potentially getting Shopify on it pretty soon. And BigCommerce as well really soon. I think I mentioned it earlier. One of my mentors is Mitch Harper that founded BigCommerce. So we've been in communications with him, and he's been behind advising us on Direct Heroes as well.
Okay, that'll be very, very interesting. So at the moment, how can you recognize, how does a platform recognize post purchases if the integration is still pending?
So it comes down to it's just making sure the tagging parameters are done correctly, obviously on your end, to make sure that it's coming from IG. And when we say post purchase, a lot of what we're doing post purchase is once the consumer physically gets the product. Right. If you think of the whole point of e-commerce or anywhere, it's like if someone's buying something, they're trying to fulfill a void a lot of the times, or they're trying to fill something that they need. And especially if they're buying something that they don't really need, how can you continue that dopamine hit is something that I've always said. A lot of the times in today's social driven economy is people getting it, they're grabbing their phones, taking a picture of it, putting it up on their story. Now, what if you were able to do that and incentivize them on the back end? Because they're already doing it, but now they're tagging you and putting a certain hashtag for an entry for an additional discount the next time they come and buy, or for an additional entry for in the future where they can win a trip or whatever, if you're running an event or whatever that situation is. That's where the post-purchase behavior, like we were talking to Josh Elizeche from Snow Teeth Whitening because his brand is insane on
Josh has been here.
Yeah. So Josh, we were talking to him about it, and because his brand, there's so many people that are continuing taking pictures with the snow in the mouth. It's like now integrated where it's like they DM.
Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. Klaviyo is a growth marketing platform that powers over 25,000 online businesses. Klaviyo understands every single customer interaction and empowers brands to create more personalized marketing moments. Listen, analyze, and act on your customer data with Klaviyo. Visit klaviyo.com/2x.
Or hashtag a certain keyword, and now you're building a list from that, and you're getting virality from people sharing it into your audience. And it's just adding a simple, whether it's in the packaging where it's like little Instagram logo on the back of it, just kind of explaining it, saying, hey, take a picture when you use the product, or give us a mini 1-minute video review and tag us, whatever the case is. And incentive. It's all Instagram's all based on that dopamine hit. That's why Instagram also got rid of the likes, where it's like people were living for the dopamine hit the whole time. And that's kind of where we've used the psychology of it.
Yeah, super, super interesting. Should we talk briefly about Instagram ads? You talked about the new ad formats and Facebook ads, which connects users directly to your Instagram Messenger. How are you seeing your best in class clients use this to the maximum to just blow up their Instagram list and marketing in general, Instagram DM list and marketing in general?
Yeah, so one of the things that Instagram just recently did, I want to say about 60 days ago. So it's not been much longer. So before that, it was the typical swipe up, go DM me keywords. So like the call to action was a lot. There was extra steps. Now about 60 days ago, Instagram or Facebook released a new placement where it's like they could literally in the feed, you can have your image and it says DM me X keyword and there's a button. And as soon as they click that button, it goes directly to the DMs and all they need to do is put in the keyword. So it's making that integration from ads to DMs a lot smoother. And not only are you getting that, it's just like you're reaching an audience that may not be following you. Now they're getting into your DM list, and then now potentially could even become a follower, which is also helping your social organically.
That's incredible. So what's the data showing on your back end of direct heroes?
On the direct hero side, we're seeing incredible numbers. Like one of the campaigns we just recently ran for not e-commerce side, but just from an ads direct to DM side, we were getting $1.24 DMs. So it's like for every entry was it costing us $1.24. So pretty much think about it, you're getting a 95% plus open percentage for $1.24. If you know how to, on the back end of that monetize, that is a cheap opt-in.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah. So for those of us listening that are considering, building out our DMs, for IG, what number should we, sort of have in place to prepare? Because it sounds like things are going to change. The game is heating up essentially. So what should e-commerce entrepreneurs and e-commerce marketers start to go on for? 100,000, a list of 100,000? What would you advise? And this might be relative, to be honest. Depending on where brands are at the minute.
It just comes down to what your end goal is. Really, that's kind of what we always have a conversation with, right? It doesn't really matter whether you're trying to aim to build a list of 100,000 subscribers, or you're trying to build a list of, just to kind of keep some small mom and pop shop store, just to kind of get, someone to come into your store. It doesn't really matter. Facebook just made the entry level so much easier with the ads, so that it doesn't matter at any given point. A lot of the e-commerce guys that we've worked with, have not had the biggest following. And I like that. And because, majority of the brands that are going to be using our platform aren't going to be the Nikes of the world, et cetera. They are going to be the ones that are going to be sub 100,000 followers. And I think that's where it's going to be engagement at its finest. It's probably my opinion. It's like, I'm not one that says there's an optimal list number. It's like, I want to figure out a way, okay, what can we help you using the tool, get the most value out of it? Our goal is to increase sales for you. And that's kind of what we've built it.
I can't wait for the Shopify integration, for the native integration with Shopify and BigCommerce, in the future.
Yeah.
So what would you, so it sounds to me that one of the biggest lever actions you can take or make after getting a subscriber is to get them to share something from your brand with their followers. You talked about the viral loop.
Yeah.
Is that the utopia? Is that the end goal besides sales, or are there any other engagement actions you can get users to take that would have a net benefit impact on your IG profile and ultimately your brand?
The big thing that there's one thing that we're doing right now. So there's a fashion influencer that we're working with as well, bigger on YouTube than on Instagram. And her entire thing is based around, obviously, still it's e-commerce based. So she's selling, affiliate products and stuff. And that's kind of going down that route. Is we initially started with the typical campaign that I talked about earlier, but then from there, it's like, I think the next dopamine hit or utopia that you're looking for is just getting them into your ecosystem. And continually pushing them, whether it's, email lists, whether it's YouTube following, whether it's now TikTok, where we're testing with a lot of TikTok influencers that are growing massively. They're pushing them onto the Instagram DMs because you can't really do much on the TikTok platform outside of go viral. So that's kind of what we're doing there. It just the one thing that we've noticed a lot, and a lot of the brands really liking it for, it's building that affinity audience and building that ecosystem really tight. That's what we're noticing a lot of it for. There are some cool, unique feature sets that we're going to be launching that I don't want to share yet because we want to make sure they're 100% solid before we can kind of bring them to public. But just right now, the simple thing, you know, like I've come from a direct response background, and my direct response background always has told me, it's like, how can I get whether it's I'd rather have a small list of highly engaged people that'll continually buy from me, whether it's an e-commerce product or anything else that I want to continue to go, and open them up to a larger ecosystem where I can share different things to them. And that's what we've built the platform for.
It's interesting. So at the minute, you still, you don't have like, I'm not going to call them basic, but like, you know, when you have options, yes, no options in Messenger, it's still pretty much flat in Instagram.
It's flat. It's full on response. So it's like when we do, so it's like if we we can segment obviously based on yes and no's, etc., but they have to respond back. There's no button.
So they'll have to type it out. Okay.
Yeah, it's actually keeping that conversation. And we've noticed by forcing that type out, it actually, at the end consumer likes it because they feel like they're having a better communication versus, you know, just hitting a yes or no. And people are starting to catch on even doing that. It adds a little bit more. Sorry, go ahead.
Is Facebook going to transition to this format, or do you think this format is going to transition to the Messenger format?
I have a feeling Facebook's going to transition to this format where they'll open it up for us to be more buttoned, like make it easier levers to pull inside of the DMs. Where right now, for us, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. But I have a feeling probably closer to end of year or early next year, we'll end up with a lot more opportunity inside of the DMs that Facebook already has inside of the Facebook Messenger platform.
We've had someone from a Chinese, who's an expert in, you know, Chinese marketing, and he was talking about, you know, WeChat, for instance, being a utility, you know, platform essentially. Do you think Instagram, you know, Messenger would be primarily a communications platform, or do you think it would, you know, evolve to utility in the future?
Feeling in the future it's going to evolve to utility. I personally use it as a utility platform myself. Even currently, it's like the amount of stuff that I buy from DMs that people aren't even selling in the DMs. Like I'll be on a page and I'll really like them, I'll just straight up DM them. It's like, hey, can I get a link? There's no link in their bio, nothing. It's like having that straight full on communication. And it's kind of getting to that point, and especially our generation, like the millennial generation, is going to end up making that as a utility platform. From like a direct to consumer side, I honestly don't think Instagram has even been tapped to how marketers and brands can actually use it at their full potential. And that's where I think it's going to end up being like a WeChat and having that direct consumer model, and how you can have your whole business and whole life run from an app. That thing fascinates me like crazy every single time I think about it.
Super interesting. My final question is in regards to the consolidation of, you know, all of Facebook's properties, particularly, you know, Messenger. So we have WhatsApp, we have Facebook Messenger, and we have IG, you know, DMs. There's Facebook obviously in the past year started to identify and show on WhatsApp particularly that WhatsApp is a Facebook, you know, company. Do you think these are hints to what the future will look like, where it'll be a single messaging platform regardless of you know, what sub platform you're using in the Facebook ecosystem?
I have a feeling it's going to get there. Yes, absolutely. I don't know how soon it's going to get there. I'm sure you've probably seen even recently Facebook and Instagram, because they're putting a lot of development into WhatsApp, and you can very blatantly see that if you pay attention to what they're doing. You know, just you can share directly posts from Instagram or from Facebook out to WhatsApp messages, and it's literally in the share function. So it's like that's a big thing that they're pushing. One of the features that I think, you know, which is a unique thing that most people aren't paying attention to. So one of our Facebook reps at our agency told us from the APAC division that WhatsApp, the reason they put so much time and effort into it into end of 2019 into 2020 of this year, is the usage on WhatsApp stories in Asia double the stories of Facebook and Instagram stories worldwide. So if you think of that correlation of data, it's actually insane. Because people that are, in Southeast Asia, India, China, et cetera, or wherever they're using WhatsApp, it's like and I'm like, I didn't even know WhatsApp had stories at the time. I had to open my app and go look at it. I was like, holy cow, that's crazy. It's like looking at that integration and the way they're pushing out to kind of keep that ecosystem. I think the one message platform will potentially happen.
Yeah. So we're living in interesting times, I have to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any final sort of points to make, or a point to make to listeners that are excited to tap into IGDM as a not just a marketing channel but a communication channel for their marketing?
Yeah, my big thing is obviously you built your entire brand and podcast around the direct to consumer e-commerce side of things. And my thing is jump on it now. It's just literally, it's like before the big brands come in and abuse it and the marketers come in and abuse it. It's like we've literally just opened it to public as of March of this year. We're recording this and it's end of June and it's starting to pick up steam like crazy, to be completely honest with you. For anybody that's listening on the podcast, jump on, reach out. We would love to help you and kind of give you some ideas. Obviously, coming from the podcast, let us know that you've come up with a 2X podcast, and we'll see what we can kind of share, some case studies, etc. And we want to see more people win on the platform. That's my big thing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Rohan. So for guys, if you want to check Direct Heroes, just go to directheroes.com. And there's some super interesting use cases here. Now, do you have any templates for the D2C space that people could just use and to get the ball rolling?
Yeah, I'll share my screen quickly.
Okay, all right, sure.
If you can just give me access to sharing screen.
Oh, sure. Go for it. Now.
Oh, there we go. Share screen. So see my screen there?
Yes.
Okay, so this is obviously when you come in, you go in, create an account, and then you kind of go down that route. I'll just go in here. So what'll end up happening is you'll come to a background that looks like this. Shows all the campaigns that you're currently running. When you go into the campaign section, obviously you can see there's a bunch of templates here. Mm-hmm. And we're continually adding more and more templates that we're testing and that are, ironclad proof, that aren't going to break. So we're going to continue throwing. So here's one that we have, which is the e-commerce post-purchase test platform. You can pretty much create a template. Let's just go test, create, and it automatically pops it in here. So it's like I said, you can go with story mention for the page, whatever the hashtag is, thanks for buying. They can get action, add a tag. And then now over here, as you can see, it says, thank you for sharing the purchase product. To show appreciation, I want to give you an exclusive something, whatever that something is. You got to go in and change your copy. But that's just what we've had. This thing has worked over and over and over again. There's a template right there for you.
Incredible. And I'm going to get an account. And what I'll do is I would also get chaps. I'll get people to, I'll try and create a flow for new episode, updates for the podcast and give it a test drive for the show.
Absolutely. For the podcast, we had Dennis Rodman launch his podcast through the IG DMs, and it was insane because you can just broadcast every single time you have it. YouTubers are loving it because you can broadcast your new video that goes live and you get some amount of views right off the bat too. So there's a lot of different features that are not e-commerce related that we haven't even talked about yet.
Incredible. And then you could also have a new drop in your direct to consumer store, let all your followers know, your list know about it. Okay. Interesting. It's just a new communication channel where there's opportunity right now to build out a list on the cheap because there's not much competition.
None. It's wide open right now.
Exactly. And when potentially the merger comes, you've already built this asset, and you don't lose, essentially.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. All your knowledge. As I said, I was looking forward to seeing you come because I know the Facebook Messenger thing is, running on its last legs now. And I just thought, okay, what other platforms that, are there? So I appreciate it. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.